In today's show, Seth Allen, the host of the Saudi Aramco Secret Basketball Podcast, joins the program, and we talk all things Trail Blazers. Welcome to Locked On Blazers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Trailblazers, your daily Portland Trailblazers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's up, world? It's your past first point guard and Trailblazers reporter, Mike Richmond. You're listening to another episode of Locked On Blazers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Available wherever you get podcasts and also on YouTube. Thanks for making this show your first listen, coming at you each and every weekday, Monday through Friday. So make it a part of your daily routine. Make it your first listen. Tell your friends to do the same. It's Locked On Blazers, your team every day. In today's program, we are joined by, I don't think a first-time guest, but certainly a first-time guest on my version of Locked On Blazers, Seth Allen. You've heard him on the Saudi Aramco Secret Basketball Podcast hosted by Seth Allen. And you can find him at Gigantic Brewing on Friday for the Seth Allen Comedy Extravaganza. You can get your laughs off and enjoy a fine beverage along the way. Seth, how you doing?
I'm good. I am your shoot first power forward. And I am here to throw up some bricks. Let's go.
Listen, we've played pickup a couple times together, maybe thrice. And you are absolutely a power forward you are not here to do anything but get buckets. This game has been and always will be about buckets. Right. And you embody that.
Pretty sure.
Seth, you host a secret basketball podcast that people can find if they're smart enough to do it. But you're also someone who I have quoted on the show before, because every so often you send me basketball takes. And way back in like November of this year, you sent me a take that said, you said, the Blazers are too good. You said, the Blazers are too good. And I read that text verbatim on the program. And then you text me again to say, how dare you, uncredited text message, getting your takes off. But so I want you to out of my text messages and into the show. What do you make of where the Blazers are right now? Like as they stand here in May, heading into maybe an eventful and maybe a completely uneventful offseason. Where is your sort of big picture take on the Trailblazers?
Well, first of all, you didn't just mention my text. You brought it up with a guest, and then you both made fun of it for about 20 minutes. So it was not like, wow, you sent me an Oracle-like text and I had to read it. It was more like I sent you a text and then you had a segment about, you used my text to represent Blazers fans writ large and how silly we were being about this team being too good in November. And then, it is a curse to see so clearly. We spoke it into existence. And then the team, I think, we didn't really know what they were doing. I'll say we as in just everybody. Right. last year at this time. And then, as someone who really wants to see a Blazers contender before I die, I was not psyched at how happy they seemed finishing 12th. They're like, oh my God, let's lock everybody in. This is it. We're 12th, baby. And I was like, oh, can we just one time just try harder to rise above like a Sacramento Kings feeling that it feels like we're always under. But I think this year, at least, now we know what they want to do, which is try to make the playoffs or play in. And so now I would my wish list for the Blazers offseason is really just roster balance. We played last season with no disrespect, 1 point guard and 4 centers. I mean, and Simons, they played point guard, but that's not really what they're cast to do. That's not their strengths, I don't think, is running a team. It was really just Scoot, who's the guy who wants to kind of organize a team and run an offense. So I mean, what if we went into the training camp and suddenly there's 2 point guards and 2 centers? That would make a little more sense for me. And then, in between it was just kind of a mush of guys who kind of, some of them worked together, some of them kind of were in the way of each other. So I would love it if now that we fans seem to understand what the brain trust is trying to do, if we just did some things to balance the roster out into something that makes sense. I mean, it's funny when you talk to people who don't follow the Blazers, just in the NBA. And whenever you bring up the 4 centers thing, they can't really believe it, and they have to pull up the rosters. No, there's 4 of them. Believe me, there's 4.
There might be 5, depending on what position you think Jabari Walker plays.
I mean, that's up for I'm just going off what the box score lists people as, not functionally what they do, but really it was a half centers roster functionally. Yes.
Yeah, 33% centers in a league that maybe doesn't prioritize that. You do need some front court depth, but it's hard to have like several gentlemen who can't share the court together be as a part of the plan. So you mentioned roster balance. Are you in this camp that says they absolutely have to trade anyone over the age of 26, or like where are you? Or are you more just like as long as the roster makes sense, you'll be comfortable with what it looks like?
I would settle for making sense. I would love it if, in my when I'm hired as the GM and I'm in a vacuum where it's like 2K and I don't really have to account for all the real world variables. All those vets would be gone, and we clear the place for the young core. I would love it if they could trade 2, like the 4 or 5 vets everyone talks about, the oldish ones. If you could trade 2 of those, that would be awesome. I think if Simons and Rob Williams were in a deal that kind of helped the roster make sense going into next season, that would be awesome. I don't think we could, the Jeremy Grant ship has sailed for a time being. That's going to be out in the ocean. That's on he's like on a deep sea voyage or something. He's circumnavigating the globe, the Jeremy Grant boat. It's 30%.
I assume it's headed to Milan and Paris is where its next stops are.
Yeah. So he's around, but I mean, I feel like the Blazers are I feel like they're in chatter again, like meaningless kind of offseason, a Western GM said, watch out for Portland in the Giannis deal. It's like, I feel like this team hasn't been a team that gets thrown in those things. And so as a fan, it's fun for me to open up Hoops Hype and be like, oh, the Stein line says that, this or that or whatever. Just seeing the name pop up feels good. It feels like, because, nothing at the deadline, and felt like, well, that seemed like a missed opportunity. And then it's like coming up to the draft. It's like, we keep hearing all these teams, the East is going to be wide open next year. Giannis, Phoenix, San Antonio, all this stuff, what's Philly, it's like all this stuff. And it's like, can we get involved in any of this to help this team make sense, please? Is like a Rob Williams and 11. That seems fairly juicy to me. That seems like an appealing something to people. And I know you hate fake trades, which I would encourage everyone to email your fake trades to Mike. He loves looking at them.
Seth texted me directly a fake trade and said, you have to look at this. Gotcha.
That's right. And you did. You can deny it all you want, but it made it in there subconsciously, at least.
I saw it. Yeah.
And so, what the team needs: shooting, play creation, really shooting is my thing. Like, if we could have a couple more players, and I like since the Denny deal worked out, I like that kind of structure of a deal where you put a little draft capital with a vet and you bring back kind of a younger person who maybe isn't getting the opportunity or wherever. Because, I'm watching the Thunder and I keep thinking, in my mind, Isaiah Joe's pretty good. They paid him and he gets 10 minutes a game now because Cason Wallace has ascended him basically. So pretty soon they're going to have to start getting rid of some of this money. And I'm like, why not a player like that, or like a Dalton Connect or somebody who's shooting, the right age, seems gettable for what the Blazers have right now. But I'm also totally mentally prepared for just nothing to materialize and the Blazers just draft a center at 11. I'm totally prepared.
I think you got to protect yourself for an inevitability is that they will. It used to be they would have drafted a bouncy white collegiate guy, but now it's maybe just they'll draft a toolsy center, like a center with some interesting tools. Derrick Queen, come on down. Let's talk draft stuff and some other ideas. I want to dig in a little more on the shooting and Denny obvious stuff. We'll do that in the second segment. Join us there. But first, I want to tell you that today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. The NBA playoffs are here. We're in the conference finals, heading to the NBA finals, and every night is delivering highlight-worthy performances, major momentum shifts, and can't-miss moments. So whether it's a game-winning shot or a breakout player, there's never been a better time to get in on that action. And FanDuel makes it easy to stay in the game before tip-off and even live once the game starts. They got player props, performance trends, and same-game parlays that give fans more ways than ever to play smart and win big. So say you're watching the game, you missed the opening tip-off, so you're not going to be able at this point to bet on the pregame money lines or the spreads, but you can get in there and track the trends that are happening in the game and build yourself a same-game parlay with multiple player props live in-game. Plus, if you do get there before tip-off, you can still make all those money line wagers as well as the pregame props or pregame spreads, whatever you're looking for. And how about a $200 bonus bet to add to the excitement if your first $5 bet hits? If you're a new FanDuel customer, it's the perfect time to sign up. You can head to FanDuel.com and place your first $5 bet. If that first $5 bet wins, you get $200 in bonus bets. So make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, still chatting here with Seth Allen, the host of Saudi Aramco, Seth Allen's Secret Basketball Podcast, or maybe Seth Allen's Secret Basketball Podcast, brought to you by Saudi Aramco. Also, check out Seth Allen's Comedy Extravaganza, Gigantic Brewing, Friday evening. You were listening to Thursday, May 29th show, and on Friday, May 30th, you can go to Gigantic Brewing and check out a live comedy show here in beautiful Portland, Oregon. Okay, you mentioned the shooting. I want to get to the draft stuff in a moment. You mentioned the shooting. Some of the shooting idea is because Denny Avdia is going to get the ball in his hands a bunch. Where are you at with point Denny, or at least like if he's not like a true point guard, which I think was maybe a step too far, but like a dude who gets the ball a bunch more? Like, are you ready to unleash Denny Avdia sort of like as the, I don't know, proto LeBron type of player where he gets a bunch of decision-making opportunities?
Mason, you went a lot further.
I like Anthony Mason. I do like Anthony Mason. Maybe has a better comp. He does need to shave brands into his hair.
Yeah, he shaved his head, all kinds of cool designs. Yeah, I mean, I'm ready for it because really, if it's not this, then what is it? I mean,
right.
Like I heard at some point the Blazers like internet banter was like, "Hey, who on this team do you think could be an all-star?" And it's like, well, if you look at the teams that are contenders, they have multiple all-stars. So it's really like even having one would not really be good enough. But I do think when you look at it, Denny's the one who you could see, all right. And I've heard some kind of advanced Denny takes that his game doesn't scale. And that's why Washington was willing to part ways with him, is like, this is really cool if you're on a 12th place team, but questions about does point Denny work on a playoff team or whatever. And I think it could. I think he was their best player last season. So I say just let him loose and let's just see if he can grow into it.
If anything, it's time to test that theory basically to its limits, in my opinion. It's like once you've walked down this path, I wouldn't be cautious with like how much you put on Denny Avdia's plate. I think I would go the other way. I would put way too much on his plate and be like, oh, that doesn't work. Okay, great. Like, okay, we found out the absolute limits of what he can do because, he was each year, for his first 2 years in the league, he just kind of stood in the corner. He played with Russell Westbrook his rookie season. Like he just kind of stood in the corner. But a little bit in his final year in Washington, he got on the ball a little bit more when particularly in the second half of the season. And then last year, the Blazers kind of gave him more opportunity and he's had his best 2 years with more opportunity. Certainly there are limits to everyone's game, right? Like at some point you're going to crack up against the ceiling with Denny and be like, oh yeah, that's it. But the Blazers owe it to themselves, in my opinion, to figure it out. And part of figuring it out is probably optimizing a lineup around him, which is where the Isaiah Joe, Aaron Wiggins, Corey Kispert acquisitions come in. And that's right. I'm throwing out names of gentlemen who make less than the mid-level exception, who are in theory acquirable in the trade markets.
Corey Kispert is a great name.
Kispert. Me and you have discussed Kispert in the past. He fits the Joe Cronin bill, right? Because he was signed to a rookie extension that's probably a little bit below, like he's pretty affordable, and he's on a long-term deal that's pretty affordable, and he fits like a specific need. Would they go back to the Wizards and like offer them more stuff? Certainly, you wouldn't have to pay up like you did for Denny for Corey freaking Kispert, but right. Like is that a move? I do think if you're looking at what is the Denny type trade, Kispert is the sort of like, C+ level of the Denny type trade, but he does fit a need. And so I think if you're searching out, if you're playing around on Trade Machine, which I reluctantly do, I'm not afraid of fake trades. I just don't care about yours. That's all. I just don't care about yours. I really don't. What value do I have saying, Seth, I hate this trade? I'm just not adding much to the conversation.
I've thought a lot about this time of year about fake trade etiquette because your fake trades mean a lot to you, and you need to keep that in mind when someone sends you their dumb fake trade that would never happen in a million years. Because sometimes I'm too harsh. So I have some friends who will send me the 8-team trade, and I'm like, why are you doing this? And what's happening here? Do you want?
Yeah, you know what? You know what killed the fake trade discourse for me was freaking Nico Harrison. Because I used to be like, this is stupid. No one would ever do this. And then Nico Harrison, under the cover of darkness, traded Luka Doncic for like stuff. He was like, I'll just get some stuff back. And so now I can't be like, listen, this would never happen.
The fake trades Nico must text people must be absolutely insane.
I think Pelinka sent him the link. He sent him the Fanspo link, and it was like, hey,
how about this?
Luka. And then it got out of control. Exactly. He was like, this is pretty good. Yeah, man. He's like, this is pretty good. What if I also get rid of Quentin Grimes for a worse player too? Like that could help. He started just, because once you get in the fake trade world, it's a little bit of momentum, and then you want to trade everybody. On the network, on Locked On Network, we're doing a mock draft. We're in the middle of a mock draft that's going to come out in maybe a week. And you get to wheel and deal. You're allowed to make trades during the mock draft. So I'm on the phone. Like I'm emailing all of my colleagues. And as soon as I made one trade with the Orlando Magic that everyone's going to love, then I was trying to wheel and deal and make all these other moves. Like I got addicted to the inertia of roster movements.
Joe Dumars holding up two phones. Was your Orlando trade Simons for KCP and Anthony Black or something like that?
It was darn close to it. I don't know if I'm allowed to say what it was, but yeah, that's basically it. that's basically it.
Simons to Orlando has been in the ether for generations. It feels like. I feel like my dad told me about that when I was a baby, about trading Anthony. About how Anthony Simons is from Orlando. Which, by the way, a guy being from a town doesn't ever mean a trade.
Does not matter. I don't know why nothing's ever mattered less.
But it feels like I've developed a kind of rule where if a fake trade makes too much sense, you can rule it out. And
I think that's true.
Simons to Orlando, I feel like people have been saying that for 2 or 3 years. Like, look, they need this. And he's from there. Why won't they? But I don't know.
Yeah, we'll I think there have been some things that have been telegraphed during the Joe Cronin era. Like the Jeremy Grant thing was telegraphed such that they were talking about it at midcourt with covering their mouths in the final Blazers-Pistons game of the year. Jeremy Grant is like covering his mouth like, I'll see y'all soon. Okay, I'll be here in a few months. Okay, everybody knew that was a real thing. Even the CJ McCollum trade to the Pelicans a few weeks beforehand, it was leaked that there was interest there, and like it became very clear that Josh Hart had to be part of the package, et cetera, et cetera. So like we have seen some things get a little bit more public in the Cronin era before they've gone down. We've also seen crazy surprises or pretty big surprises like trading Dame to the Bucks and getting Denny Avdia on draft night. Like there's been both sides of that. So we've seen things come out of nowhere and also things that have been wildly telegraphed. Perhaps Anthony Simons is wildly telegraphed. Let's talk draft stuff. You're someone who watches college basketball. God bless you for it. I want your draft takes. We'll do that to close the show. Join Seth and I in that third segment. Still a pass first point guard, still Mike Richmond. You're still here listening to Locked On Blazers, chatting here with Seth Allen, a man who could dunk at one point. Can you still dunk?
No, the last time I dunked was at 26 years of age. And it's been,
not to date you, but roughly 15 years ago.
Fortnite or two, yes.
Can you dunk a tennis ball?
I mean, it's dunking feels so unnatural to my whole body. Just like jumping, trying to jump high. It's weird because I tried to do it. We were playing around and shooting baskets outside a friend's house. And I'm like, let me just try it, see. And it's like, oh, it's like my body forgot how to do this. I mean, I quit playing pickup because I injured myself. And then I just kind of shut it down. And then now it's like my body's like, you want me to do what? Like, how does this make sense?
Yeah.
Like, it just feels wrong. It feels unnatural. I'm supposed to be here on the ground, connected to my Mother Earth at all times.
Yeah, terra firma. Exactly.
Yes.
The Blazers have the 11th pick in the draft. They have no second round picks. It's too bad because pretending that second round picks are all going to turn into Tamani Kamara. It's one of the great traditions of summer. I hope the Blazers acquire a second round pick so we can dream. Who do you like at 11? Give me one name, and then I'll demand that you give me 3 more after that. Who do you like at 11 for the Blazers?
Well, it's interesting because like the Blazer, this regime doesn't care about shooting, right, in the draft, or at least they have not up to this point. So what I keep thinking about is at some point you have to value this, right? It can't just be if he can shoot guys every time. If he learns to shoot guys,
it's 6'6" and can do everything but shoot and dribble. Come on, forever. Yes. Everything but shoot and dribble forever.
This guy just turned 18. He has 12-foot long arms. Can he play basketball? We'll find out. But imagine if he can, you know? So I do wonder. So I'm being like, they need some why wouldn't they at 11? Why won't you take some team need stuff? But I just don't know if they will. But I think you're a Rasheed Fleming guy. I'm a Rasheed Fleming guy. But here's the thing, like these kind of players like Colin Murray, Boyles, Cedric Coward, I don't think you even need 11 to get these people. So maybe Agreed. It's a trade back situation. Maybe with OKC or Brooklyn, Brooklyn just needs players. They should just take guys. But OKC, some of these players that maybe just like want fewer picks in the draft or something, getting
Orlando has 16 and 25. I think OKC has 15 and 24. Like there are teams that are probably like Orlando could probably talk themselves into being like the 3rd best team in the East, if not better next season, if they really squint. So like maybe they don't want rookies, right? They want adults. And so maybe they're willing to move off those picks. Oklahoma City, like they probably just have to stop drafting players at some point. They have to chill out and like stop stockpiling with rookies or move some guys you've already drafted like Nikola Topic or whatever. So yeah, I think there's a world where they move back. Would you rather them move back and get multiple cracks at it and be able to address a need?
Like I'm a draft guy. I believe in rookies. Like I want more. I want more of those guys. And I love Topic too. Maybe a Topic is on the table. This guy, it's like it's just crazy how much OKC has that they can no longer really utilize. It seems like there needs to be a clearance sale at some point for them to keep it moving. But I like Rasheed Fleming. To me, he's all the draft nerd stuff. When you read like the measurements and then it's like the steals, the blocks, the threes, and it's like that would probably be more soothing to me to see Rasheed Fleming getting those Chris Murray minutes next season. I think I like Cedric Coward, having never seen him play basketball 100% just because
I've watched a lot of highlights. I've seen a lot of YouTube videos of Cedric Coward over the last 3 weeks or so.
They're pretty good, right?
Yeah, he's fun. His Eastern Washington highlights are awesome. Like when I see him rolling in the rolling in the Big Sky, he's really good in those Big Sky highlights. He's better than everybody else.
And look, the Blazers have a huge success rate with Big Sky players. I say you got to take Cedric in the first round. I think he would
I assume you're talking about Montana State's Keldon Blevins when you mentioned Big Sky legend.
I try to get away without bringing Blevins back. But yes, Cedric, I mean, he would be fun. Some guys I don't like is like I think it was just because when I happened to watch them, they played bad games. But like Demeen, no, man. And I think ESPN still has him mocked at 11 to the Blazers right now. So I got my hackles up just because he doesn't, when the games I watched, again, just my bias, but you never saw him going around his guy, getting past his guy. He looks there's not a lot of he has those great passing and he's so tall, but it's like, he's never really putting pressure on the defense. It's more like he's playing that very team game where he's like making the pass that he's supposed to make in their motion offense right now or something. And I never saw him like get around his guy and put pressure on the basket or anything. So I didn't like that. And he's another if he can shoot guy.
Yeah, and he shot like 50% of his shots were from three. Like he lives at the arc. He throws a lot of really fun cross-court skip passes, though. Like if you're into the cross-court skip, he has a lot of those. But yeah, I think to me, it's like he's so skilled at his size, but there's so many. The path to him being really good is a long one for sure, because he's got a lot of. It's just like, can you be a lead guard that doesn't get downhill? I think that's a very reasonable question.
Yeah. Assange too. I think he's up the Blazers alley in terms of
he's such a Blazers pick, isn't he?
And selfishly, I live near where the Remix play in North Portland, so I wouldn't mind Assange because I think he would be with the Remix for a little bit, and it would be fun to go to University of Portland and watch him up close and watch him play and develop. Kind of like how we got to see Rupert for a while until the Blazers were too bad and they stole him to not play him. Anyways. So like that would be fun, but it's another if he can learn to shoot, watch out, with him too. I think you've touched on this before, how sometimes a lack of information gets people excited about a draft pick.
Yes.
This is like going back to Dante Exum, right? Remember when he was just a mystery? He was just crushing in workouts and nobody had ever seen this guy. He's from Australia and he's the next thing, But Hugo Gonzalez, who's played for Real Madrid, he was like he was the MVP of the EuroLeague's like youth division, and then he got promoted to the big club. Never plays. They are the best team in the Spanish league, so it's not like he stinks. But I mean, you would hope he could carve out some minutes from Mario Hezonja, who plays his position and is their alpha. So, if you frame it like that, it kind of just deflated that whole thing. But he's a guy who nobody really knows because he quit, and the European guys, I guess they'll do that Italian combine coming up.
The Euro combine. Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess he'll be there and we'll see, but he was like a really interesting, 17-year-old prospect who just kind of fell down because he's not playing. So that could be a fun, like, mystery pick for the Blazers. I love Derrick Queen, but on this team, I think that would be a nightmare.
Same. I'm going to enjoy watching Derrick Queen play NBA basketball as long as he doesn't play for the Portland Trail Blazers, which then I'll be totally puzzled by.
He might be just an anomaly talent who's just going to be great wherever he goes, offensively. But also, I'm kind of down on that style of like Sabonis-ish, those guys who kind of like are centers who are really offensively skilled, and it just seems to put a ceiling on the Şengün kind of thing. There
was a stretch earlier in the playoffs before we got into the later rounds of the Western Conference Finals where Julius Randle was balling, and it was just like, we've got the Randle-sance, and I was like, this is good for Derrick Queen. Derrick Queen needs to be sending teams clips of the Julius Randle highlights, and be like, could be me. Could be me. But then Julius has really struggled the last couple of games against the best defense in the league. So, hey, it happens. But I think that's bad for the old, like, skilled undersized five stock a little bit. Yeah. Obviously, Randall's pretty damn good. He's made a couple All-NBA teams, but that would be a great outcome for Queen. But still, I'm with you. I just like, I want, if you're going to play center in the league, I want you to protect the rim. Like, as limited as Donovan Clingan is on offense, and boy is he limited, I prefer that skill set. I prefer give me the dude who just like is gigantic and protects the rim a little bit. It's not very fun. Yeah. He fumbles the ball a lot, misses some layups, but like that, to me, that's like, that would be more of my priority personally.
Yeah. I do think it's interesting that some of the teams are going away from, I think the rim protection thing has scared some teams. Like the Thunder don't attack the rim. It doesn't matter that Gobert is out there because most of their guys pull up. So it's kind of interesting. They drive
a lot, but they don't always get all the way to the cup. Like they only have two dudes who can. Yeah.
I don't know. Colin Murray,
have two dudes who can dribble.
That's a problem. Yeah.
Sell me on Colin Murray Boyles. I feel like I'm lower on him than most folks. What's the vision with him?
Julius Randle with defense, I think.
Okay.
But yeah, he is the same. I mean, I only thought of him because you were talking about Randle. Because when I watch Colin Murray Boyles, it's fun and I like it. And I like Julius Randle too, but you can see how it's harder for this kind of player to kind of matter a lot when you get deep into the playoffs. It's just they're more matchup dependent, I feel like. You know, Randall can just bully certain players, but if he doesn't have that matchup, it's kind of what we've been seeing lately.
Yeah, I think the Blazers, and you mentioned this earlier, it's like at some point they need to address their actual needs, but they're at a weird place where it's like, if you invest so much in like the needs of this particular group, you might be headed down the wrong path. It's like they need to balance somehow, just like acquiring the maximum amount of talent they possibly can, but also like creating a functional ecosystem for Toumani Camara and Denny Avdia and Scoot Henderson and Shaden Sharp. Like they need, I feel like that's the challenge when I think about this draft. It's like, well, yeah, like you just want to get the best player possible. That's like obviously the plan, because they still need like a tier 1 type of guy. And maybe you think Denny can like get there, but also like they do need to create, as you mentioned, like they do need to like address some of their actual issues with the shooting and the playmaking, so they can like create a better ecosystem. And it doesn't seem to me that there's an obvious pick at 11 that does both. So you're just like, it's a balancing act, right? It's a balancing act. It is you're probably not going to get it done in the draft. So you got to figure out like, what is the best way to do this in the draft? And then can the rest of it be addressed on the trade market, and how quickly on the trade market? Is that something you can do in June and July, or is it something that you do in like freaking 2026? You know, like it's hard to know. Honestly, it's hard for me to know from where I sit what the Blazers timeline is. I want to get you out of here on this. If the Blazers are a play-in team next year, will you celebrate?
Define celebrate.
Oh no, that sounds like a no. That sounds like a no. Will you watch the game with a friend and root for them to be victorious and advance in the playoffs? Yeah,
I will. I think it was Mike Brown who said, it's easy to go from being bad to being mediocre in the NBA. It's easy. Mm-hmm. You shouldn't be too excited about that. The hard part is going from mediocre to contender. I think that's a Mike Brownism. I want to say so. But I think that's where it is too. It's like, this doesn't feel exciting for long, of being like, hey, we're like 8 to 12 we're like moving up here. It's like, man, that's why I'm like kind of a pro tank guy. And I got scared when they were so good early in the year. 'Cause I'm like, granted, it's a ping pong game. And as we've seen, it doesn't usually pay off like you want it to, but it does give you like, it does give you like a path to getting the type of player that you need that, they won't take. So.
Yeah, it's weird, right? Because I think they're at a place where they probably shouldn't lose games on purpose, but I don't think they should prioritize like being the 9th best team in the West. I don't think that should be a goal of theirs. If they happen to be the 9th best team in the West, 8th best team in the West, awesome, cool, fun season. But like I would be disappointed if they make decisions, particularly with the roster, not maybe when the games start, particularly with the roster, that like prioritizes being mediocre, because you can get caught there for a long time. And that's actually not, if your marching orders are to be mediocre, you can follow them pretty closely. If your marching orders are beyond that, we've seen, I think, during the Damian Lillard era, how hard it is to go from like consistently competitive to a team that can like confidently win a playoff series. And I think where the Blazers are is like, you feel pretty good that they could be a playoff team in the near future, but could they be a top 4 seed could they be a top 4 seed multiple times? Because you probably need multiple cracks at it as a home court advantage team to have a real chance to win the playoffs, or you're just the Pacers. And once you get in, you just make the conference finals every year. The Blazers need to petition to make the Eastern Conference. They got to move east.
We got to move east. Yeah. Shout out to Kevin Pritchard.
Yeah, exactly. Shout out to Kevin Pritchard, Chad Buchanan, the whole gang over there in Indiana. Seth, where can people find more of your great work? How do they find the Secret Basketball Podcast?
That's just wherever you get pods. Seth Allen Secret Basketball Podcast. Find me on social media. Hey, Seth Allen, for all that. Check out the Washman Podcast too. That's a weekly pod. It's a top tier St. John's neighborhood based podcast in Portland, Oregon. Maybe the best ever.
I think it's legitimately the funniest Portland comedy podcast by a lot. a lot. It's a chat show. It's two dudes who like each other, who are friends, who are laughing and having a good time. It's a little blue for my specific audience, but it is. Seth and Shane are legitimately very funny. I was an early adopter. I've been on since episode 1, baby. And wow. It's hilarious. I am often texting Seth about things that he says on the podcast, the way he is texting me about things I have said on mine. That we are listening to each other and exchanging texts. Exactly. Holding each other accountable. Dear listeners, come back for more shows the rest of the week. It's what we do 5 days a week, wherever you get podcasts, and also on YouTube. Seth, I appreciate it. It was a whole bunch of fun. We'll do it again soon. Like I said, tell your friends. I appreciate you listening. I'll talk to you soon.